So that's it for housekeeping. Now on to the topic of the day, employee engagement. We generally think of team lunches, employee spotlights in the office as employee engagement, but what about when we're all forced to work remotely from home during COVID-19? How has remote working really impacted our employee engagement, especially the mental health of our staff? As HR specialists, it's a very important topic to us because we want to ensure our employees are healthy physically and mentally. So with that, in addition, us as humans, we're generally social creatures, which is why we have this panel today. Feel free to type in the comment section any kinds of issues you or your employees are facing, such as lack of socialization, distractions like kids. I know some of our panelists also have kids at home as well. We'll go over that. And so we can sort of see where everyone's coming from. But today, we're very fortunate to have three panelists, super great panelists, to share insights into how they're engaging their employees during COVID-19. So first off, we have Chi-Tung Leung, CEO of Engage Rocket, the fastest growing people analytics tech company in Southeast Asia, serving more than 50,000 users across APAC. Maybe Chi-Tung, you can give us a quick 60-second further intro.
Sure, thanks for having me, Thomas. It's very nice to meet all of you this afternoon. As Thomas said, Engage Rocket is the fastest growing people analytics company here in Southeast Asia. We help companies to get visibility on their organizational health and productivity using real-time analytics. My co-founder and myself, we've been in this space for each of us more than 10 years. We're very happy to be able to put all of this into a product and easy to use software for people. So more than 50,000 users, including companies like StarHub, MediaCorp, and so on. Very happy to be here to share whatever we know.
Thank you so much, Chi-Tung. Up next, we have Yvonne Yap, Director of Operations for Adecco. She has 20 years of experience with Adecco in Singapore and Malaysia, currently manages 7 specialist recruitment teams across industries. So can you also give us a quick 60-second intro?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here with all of you. Well, just to give you a bit of information of Adecco. So we are founded in Switzerland, established in Singapore in 1985. We are the world's leading workforce solutions company, offering temporary, permanent, and outsourcing across all sectors. So in terms of Adecco, currently right now, we have 66 countries, and we have about 2,000 offices worldwide. So in terms of what I mentioned, in terms of permanent and temporary, as well as outsourcing services are our main forte.
Thank you, Yvonne. Last but not least, we have Jeremy Lee, HR Manager at JustLogin, who's invested 12 years of his life driving people-focused activities and policies. His workplace is his second home, although I'd like to argue that it's his first home sometimes, and his colleagues are his extended family. Those are the perks that he gets every morning, knowing that he's always in the center of driving positive change in the way we work and collaborate together. Jeremy, 60 seconds.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jeremy. I'm the HR manager of JustLogin. Right, I've been a HR practitioner for 12 years in various industries like logistics, oil and gas, manufacturing, advertising, fintech, and now tech, right? So very interesting role for me as a HR in a HRMS company, right? So one thing good for me is that I get to be exposed to, seeing how things develop on the back end, for HR solutions. And this makes my work very interesting. At JustLogin, I'm managing 4 countries, Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, and Myanmar, all right? So the role of HR is ever-changing. There's data science, people engagement, and more we are getting pushed on the forefront. So happy to share. And yes, thanks, Thomas.
Thank you, Jeremy. For those of you just joining in, feel free to leave some questions in the Q&A tab. I'll incorporate them into our panel discussion. But just to kick off, Chi-Tung, I wanted to ask you, so I recently saw your ongoing survey with hundreds of companies partaking on engagement. You shared the impact of engagement on resilience, mental health, and well-being. So you mentioned that the more engaged employees are, half as likely to be stressed, and they're twice as likely to be resilient. Can you share more on the survey and the findings and why you think it is what it is?
Yeah, sure. So I think what you're referring to, Thomas, is the people continuity package. So Engage Rocket essentially launched a free version of our tool for companies, and more than 500 companies have since signed up. We partnered with the Institute for HR Professionals, IHRP, as well as the Singapore HR Institute, SHRI, to launch this to the public. So what it comprises is a questionnaire to touch on all of those things. And what you're referring to, that statistic, is when we looked at companies who had engaged employees and those who had employees who maybe were not as engaged, or promoters and detractors within these companies. And we found that there are significant benefits to engaging your staff, even in the midst of a crisis like this one. So we found, number one, that engaged employees were more than twice as likely to actually have confidence in the company's response to COVID-19. We also found that they were more than twice as likely to have confidence in the company's future. So there was a lot of resilience inherent within the engaged employees. Engaged employees were also half as likely to be stressed compared to employees who are not engaged. So this was really interesting to us because we really nailed down, like, even in the midst of a global health crisis, a global recession, we found that engagement still matters, and it matters greatly to companies and business outcomes.
Thank you for sharing. It's quite interesting, your studies on employee engagement, COVID-19. You also sent in a poll, which I think we'll take right now. So if the audience can answer this real quick, when working from home, it takes me blank to achieve the same productivity as compared to working in the office. So it'll take a few seconds to do that. But while that's happening, maybe Yvonne, Jeremy, you can share about how COVID-19 has impacted your company's productivity and mental awareness and mental health.
Yvonne, you want to go first?
I think, Yvonne, you're on mute still.
Yeah, I think as what Chee-Tong mentioned, in terms of engagement is really great in terms of companies. I think engagement is also something whereby it's very great in Adecco during this period. I think with this COVID and circuit breaker period right now, I think in terms of not only in terms of HR, but I think in terms of individual respective team managers as well as directors ourselves, we need to continue to engage our people, especially whereby for myself, I'm in the sales team. And my profile are mainly salespeople. So as salespeople, you need to continue to motivate them, to incentivize them, as well as also to motivate them. So this is ongoing things that we are doing in Adecco.
And so do you see the productivity of your teammates? Has it increased, decreased, remained this? I guess I'm asking the same question as the poll.
Yeah, I think in terms of productivity, actually, because every weekly we do have a productivity dashboard. And I can say that our productivity has actually increased, during this period. Yes. So I think that is a good sign in a way whereby I'm looking at the statistics in terms of productivity, meaning that in a way, the young people has actually embraced working from home and also embraced working from home in a productive manner. So this is what we have seen from the dashboard in a way.
Jeremy, you seem like you have something to add.
Yes, so I think in terms of productivity, right? Definitely, there would be, in the past we are working from in the office, and now there's working from home. So I think in terms of the company itself, as a HR, how do we support business operations? I think that's the important thing. I'm quite fortunate that I'm in a tech company, right? So Just Log In, we leverage on technology on a day-to-day basis. In my previous companies, there would be times where we print lots of papers on a daily basis. But at Just Log In, I think for this year, the only documents I've been printing is actually employment contracts, right? So how do we leverage on technology? So we are using Microsoft Teams, for internal communications. We are using on platforms such as Monday boards, for team collaboration, keeping track of KPIs, team targets, achievements, things like this. So I think that's the crux, right? So how tech ready are we as a workforce? Because if you are very, very reliant in terms of day-to-day operations, in terms of that physical presence, then productivity will definitely be affected when you do a very drastic change to a work from home basis. So I think there's a slide which was going out, what drives change in your organization, or what streams or what pushes for digitalization. It's not your CEO, it's not your CTO, it's not your COO, it's COVID-19.
19.
Right?
Yeah.
It's COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
And we are forced to make this digital change, and all the more we should leverage on technology. And so far, I mean, at Just Log In, prior to COVID-19, we do have what we call a work from home leave, 1 day per month, where if you need to be at home, let's say the serviceman for aircon is coming down, there's no one who's able to be away, then yeah, take 1 day work from home leave, stay at home, all right? Look out for your home chores, And so we are, I would say, quite ready, to be on a work from home arrangement. Just that being it on a full-time basis or a very long-term basis would have its own impacts.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think the poll is closed now. So can we share the results from the audience? So it seems half of the people say it takes more time to achieve the same productivity, whereas 30% say it takes less time. So I guess it's quite interesting. It really depends maybe on what sort of work from home environment you have. I know that Yvonne, Chitung, you both have children at home, which might be distracting. Jeremy, I think you have your mother who's preparing dinner or something before.
Yes.
So do you want to share a bit on how you manage the distractions at home to stay focused and engage with your employees?
I think in terms of having kids at home is especially during now, whereby we have home-based learning and then also work from home. It's challenging, but I think at the same time, it's also taking this opportunity to train our kids to be more mindful in terms of responsibilities as well as time. So for myself, what I do is that we set some boundaries in terms of certain time. You cannot come to disturb me, and I have actually a signboard outside my study room and says that do not come in. I will come out. Yeah. So I think it's also to train them to be mindful of schedules and make them more disciplined. So this is what I got it out from during this circuit breaker. During the first 2 weeks, it was a bit challenging, but currently right now, it is quite auto. My boy will know that 2 to 6 is homework time, and do not disturb mommy. So I think so far, so good in a way.
Good.
Yeah, I think what Yvonne mentioned is very true. Like right outside my door right now is a quiet zone sign, right? Just to let everybody know that not to run it. But at the same time, things do happen. And I think something that is maybe at the core of employee engagement as well is clear expectations, because we want people at work as well to know that, look, I have children, this is the reality. And if they do pop up on my screen, it's not me being unprofessional or me. This is just the reality of my life.
Yes.
And equally as leaders, we need to recognize when, for example, somebody in the staff might say, I have a doctor's appointment for whatever reason, right? For 3 hours in the afternoon, and I'm not going to be contactable. That's fine, right? So as long as that communication flow is open, I mean, when we study employee engagement, this is one of the foundational pieces, like just clear expectations, clear boundaries. As long as we can set that up front, I'd say that we can build on top of it all the programs, but really is that fundamental trust and understanding at the base of it.
I find that the solutions which both of my panelists have, I can't adopt. I can't put, don't disturb me, mom. All right. but I think, yeah, that's true, right? I think even more as a HR, I think we have to understand our employees, right? The family and the home environment plays a very big part. When pre-COVID, everyone's talking about, having a very supportive work environment. You look at Google, you look at Grab, you look at all the tech firms, they have amazing work environment. But when the work environment changes to home, we all have to start to then understand what's the role of my employee at home. You know, is this person someone who's taking charge of the entire household? You know, so we have to understand it and how to overcome it. I think as an employee, of course, you have to be open. I think what Chitu mentioned about being open is true, not just to the company, but also to my family members that, hey, 9 to 6 is work time, right? You know, so I do my best. But I mean, even in just like when we have our management meetings, you know, of course, the little ones do pop by, but don't penalize the employees, right? For what we did, even say hi, hey, long time no see, you know. Even ask how is she, how's the little girl coping, or things like this. So it's how a company embrace these challenges of working from home, right? And don't penalize it, you know. Of course, also don't reward it, right? I mean, the last thing you want is for every course you have, a one-to-one call becomes a one-to-a-family call, you know. But it's how do we understand and move on from there.
Thank you. I think one of the audiences also added, Jasmine, I think it depends on one's life experience. And they say which contributes to how productive one is. Also, what we have done is to allocate time for when we can contact each other, as we are mindful there are different family situations, different team members that have different experiences. So a lot of flexibility and understanding is needed. Going to some questions. Before we go into the work-life balance that some people are asking, we have many people asking about employee engagement strategies. What are you doing now to engage your employees remotely? Some people are stressed. How can we decrease that stress and still engage the employees?
All right. So maybe I think as a HR, let me just share some things. In terms of employee engagement, I think end of the day is how do you reach out to them, right? So at Just Log In, we're leveraging on a few platforms. One of it is actually Workplace, right? So Workplace is essentially Facebook for business, all right? Facebook for businesses. So we have a Workplace account, and I created an account for everyone. We are all participating in there. And what you want to do now, you realize that on a work from home, there's no pantry. There's no chit-chat area for my employees. You know, there's no more, hey, I turn to my left, I can speak to my favorite coworker. So Workplace becomes our virtual pantry area where can actually, if you're stressed at work, go there, post something, discuss, you know, things like this. And as a HR, I also start to do activities. We start to plan for games, all right, short ones. All right, so every Wednesday, as a global effort, we have a chit-chat session. So there's a theme for that chit-chat session per se. Last Wednesday, it was, the theme is green, bring something green, all right? Also is in conjunction with Hari Raya theme, the color is green. This, and we get everyone to share a little bit. This Wednesday or yesterday per se, what we had was, bring your favorite item with you. So leverage on this employee engagement activities, not just to blindly reach out to the employees, but I ask the employees to share, why is this your favorite item? What is the sentimental value to you? And everyone starts to see a different component to their colleagues. Hey, this person is into watches, this person loves this person actually loves floral dresses, for example. So it brings a different insight. And when people know colleagues on a very personal level, that's where you create more bonding and fostering among the team.
So really,
yes.
Maybe if I can add a slightly different perspective as well. I think it's very important to get to know each other and to maintain those personal social contacts while being distant physically. But what we've noticed as well is by actually, this is controversial, but by leaders giving meaningful work or explaining the meaning of the work to the team, I think this is a very big driver of employee engagement. This pans out in the research, but even for Engage Rocket ourselves, I think by being able to provide support for the community during this difficult period, we found that not only did our own employee engagement increase, it improved the amount of teamwork that we had, the amount of communication, and people were working longer hours, not because they had to, but because they saw that, hey, we're really making a difference here. And I think that this is something that is often ignored sometimes when we think about it in HR. But as a means of communicating to business leaders, maybe helping them understand how important it is to communicate why people are doing things, right? And to explain it to people, especially in this context where it's, I mean, they don't have town halls anymore in person. It's difficult to have water cooler chats. This sense of meaning is so easily lost. So it's doubly critical for leaders and HR to ensure that this message goes through.
Yeah, totally agreed. Totally agreed with Chi Tung.
Yes, I think at the same time, in terms of in terms of why are you doing this and why you're not doing this, I think this is something whereby communication need to be very transparent. I think in terms of the teams, nevertheless, I think we need to also create a vision, during this period. What do we need to do differently? What do we need to be different in order to stand out during this period? Because this is a situation where every one of us are into this together. We have not met this together. And I think it's a journey with them as well. So that's why in Adecco, in terms of course, we are so used to seeing each other, in the pantry or just sitting beside us. I think in terms of team meetings, huddle meetings, as well as we would have like a monthly town hall whereby our regional bosses will be mentioning some words and give updates. So I think that is also very important as well.
Yeah. Sorry?
Oh yeah, I just want to drive a little bit on Chi Tung's point, which is, it's true that precise communication in terms of what a line manager wants from the employees is essential. Because I think what we have seen so far, or the feedback I get from a lot of my friends or HR practitioners, is that I'm on too many calls. And too many calls often derive because of there is a lack of a clear understanding of what I want to do. There's a lot of ding dong, there's a lot of back and forth. But if the direction is set clear on the onset, then employees know what they need to do. And how demotivating can it be for an employee where I go through 10 drafts with my managers and know that whatever I spend on my own or during my work time is not what they want. If there's no longer, like what everyone mentioned, the water cooler time. There's no more that, getting someone on the call is equally difficult because sometimes you open your boss's schedule, you look at busy. Right? So all the more now it's important for line managers to make a very clear and concise communication down what is expected out of your team and drive them to achieve these goals.
Thank you for that. I think it's quite important. Yvonne, going back to what you were saying of explaining the difference between how things were working before COVID-19 and after, what are some big changes you three have seen in your company and the way you've engaged them from pre-COVID-19 to post? And what are some that you actually kept the same?
I think I will start first. I think in terms of Adecco, whereby in terms of the pre and post, I think one thing is quite consistent in terms of is the engagement part. Okay, we have in Adecco we have this called Win for Youth program, whereby it actually brings the Adecco Group employee, associates, as well as clients together to share their passion of sport. So every kilometers an hour that we actually are doing during our workout, it actually goes to, we donated to a Plan International, whereby it improved young people's life. So this is something whereby even now we have almost like every month we have 3 to 4 sessions, workout sessions, whereby we engage employees and also in terms of associates to join in together. So it's virtual workout sessions. So we are still doing it. So this is something whereby is still continuing in terms of with Adecco, and also in terms of celebrations. So like for my team, I think in terms of any success, any good story to share, we still share it in terms of a good story to share in terms of a client or the win or a first placement. This is something that whereby we are still engaging our employees. So this is something whereby it's still continuing. But of course, at the same time, I think at this time whereby we don't see each other, we need to be also quite creative to engage our people. So as I know in terms of the other teams, they even have like a cooking challenge Okay, probably that's why all the flowers are being sold out now, because I was told that you can buy flour nowadays. And there's karaoke sessions. There are even like virtual amazing race sessions. So like watching Netflix together, drawing together. I think these are things whereby, as for leaders ourselves, we need to be very attentive to see what kind of events that drive this kind of engagement. Yeah. So this is what I seen from Adecco in terms of the respective divisions, in terms of what we are still continuing to drive engagement.
Real quick before Chi-Tung, Jeremy jump in, there's a few questions asking, first off, the examples which you're explaining, but also how do you attract participation? It's one thing to create an initiative or activity, but it's another thing to get your employees to actually do it. So how can you improve on that? Or do you have advice and tips for others?
I think the important, maybe I'll just share a little bit. I think that as an organization, right, how much do they want to participate? That is the key challenge, right? And that's where at Just Not In, we form teams. Even prior to COVID, we set social teams, which is staff of different departments within that same country into individual teams. And from there, we do some activities on a monthly basis. All right. So that social pressure, I mean, good pressure per se, has to be there where it's like, hey, I'm going for the chit chat session with Jeremy on Wednesday. Hey, come on together, man. It's been a while since we last chat. So there must be that form of social cohesion. And how does the company drive certain activities, to promote staff to say that, hey, I want to be in that activity. Of course, we all always say that monetary incentive is the best incentive, but being in a COVID-19 situation, cost becomes something which everyone just puts on double focus on, right? But then again, these sort of activities need not be expensive. All right, you can run small activities where it could be a very small gesture. A winner gets a Grab delivery for lunch, or things like this. Drive the activity, put in some mini rewards, to let staff feel that, hey, I want to participate. That social interaction, that social cohesion is critical.
Yeah, I think to your point, maybe adding on to what Jeremy and Yvonne have said, sometimes the leaders actually participating as well is an important way to drive participation, because it wouldn't make sense if the leadership said, hey, you got to go and do this, and then nobody shows up, and then they don't show up, right? And they keep not showing up and signaling to the rest of the organization that, hey, my time is more important than yours. So I think that's something that's important for leaders to pay attention to as well. And to your earlier question, Thomas, about what we've done differently, we've kept a few things. So we have a Monday all hands meeting, which we still continue to do to keep everybody apprised of what's going on in the company. We have a lightning talk on Friday where everybody takes turns to share about anything from this anything under the sun, literally, like playing the guitar or designs or whatever it is, right? It can be, so all of those still continue. We've also added what we call sanity call. So anybody can at any time just trigger, hey, I'm going to have coffee in 15 minutes. Anybody who wants to join in can join in. And we use Slack as an internal communications tool. So we have a bot. It's a Slack app that essentially randomly assigns coffee buddies. So we do have these virtual coffees with each other. And once in a while, we'll have virtual happy hour, right? So everybody just grabs a drink and then gathers around and just chats.
All right, and going back to productivity, I have a question here as well, Yvonne. How are the KPIs being measured? And how do you monitor your employees while working from home? And this can go for everybody.
Yes. So in terms of KPIs, of course, we do have a system that is able to track in terms of whatever that you do, we can see the dashboard. I think at the same time, I think it was also something whereby we just initiated and also established during this period, and it's called Perform. So there's this perform agent whereby it's actually working very closely with my leads as well as managers across all divisions, whereby they have like a digital board to drive in terms of what is your weekly activities, what is the success that you want to bring in, and also what are the problems that you are looking into and wanting to solve by this timeline. So there is this it has been running out, I think, and for me, I can actually see all the boards in my system, whereby in terms of I can even see some probably we have this board whereby it shows the emotions of this person, whether are they happy today, are they bored today, or they're not motivated today. So there's this kind of emotions icon in a way. And I think in a way, this is whereby I can it's very transparent. And if I see this, for a couple of days, I'll be able to reach out to the individual to see, hey, how can I help you or anything like that. Yeah. So in terms of productivity, that is something whereby we have established in the company. And of course, salespeople, we are, we at the moment right now, I think not only in terms of figures that we're looking at, but also in terms of attitude. How are you doing? What are you contributing? What are you doing differently to see kind of other avenues in terms of the contribution, not necessarily just on figures. Yeah, so this is what we are based on.
All right, I think I'm going to take this time to do a poll. It relates a bit to what Chetan was saying earlier. Can we get the poll up about the management team's commitment to initiatives in HR? So getting the management team's commitment is crucial in any initiatives HR is driving. How strong is the support given to you by your management team? And then here you can choose your selection. While that's going on, I want to dive into a very interesting question is how to stay connected to the team, but don't make it seem like you're micromanaging, because nobody likes a micromanager. How do you ensure that?
All right, so maybe I can just dig in from being a line manager personally, where I have 2 staff under me, and also as a HR, where I need to also give my opinions to the managers. I think one important thing coming back is that clear and concise communication between you and your team in terms of what is the expected. All right. So having a daily call to some, it could be very taxing, but I think we have to end of the day look into what is the purpose of every call. So for me and my department, what we do is a weekly call. All right, there's an agenda. We prepare what we want to say about. We monitor the deadlines. We identify the gaps. And the call is actually meant for us to say that just keeping everyone informed in terms of what have we been doing. On a day-to-day basis, right, there is always there's no longer an open door, but open Teams policy where you can message me anytime to be your point of escalation, and I'll take things up from there. So coming back to this, right, is about how do we trust our employees. That it must come from a mutual, high trust workplace, because trust has to be earned. Everyone says that. But if I don't trust my employee and it becomes like I need to monitor everything, what they're doing, all the way down to what are you doing in the next minute, then they will reciprocate that form of low trust mindset back to you, where they'll start to becoming disengaged. So there has to be certain level of trust given by the managers. Of course, there has to be some form of monitoring in terms of what they're supposed to do, but always stay balanced in the way we do things.
Yep. So I think as what Jeremy mentioned, I think trust is very important. I think in a way it's a two-way thing. I believe currently right now the generation no one want to be micromanager in a way. So of course we have our official weekly calls, and also in the team members they will have their morning huddle. But I think this is we also need to strike a balance, to have the official ones. Also at the same time, for myself, I will also send invites to my team leads to have a chat with them, and also to keep myself very available. Should there be anything that they want to talk about, they want to check about in a way. I think in a way is sometimes not necessary, because during this time whereby the circuit breaker period, people will tend to be more stressful, especially salespeople, whereby they have no figures that's coming in. What happened, things like that. So I think in terms of the support, in terms of and also in terms of the communication, you need to be very transparent. I think no matter what, we are still in we are in a business organization. We need to make money out of it. So I think in terms of hearing them, and also in terms of also throwing feedback and to be very practical about it, I think that is also very important, because we need to be able to balance ourselves during this period. What is important, and also what is not important, and also what is meant to be cost saving and what's not to be cost saving in a way.
Yeah, maybe I just add a little bit. I think there's this phrase which I always use, which is out of sight but not out of mind, right? We don't see everyone now, right? But I think I also mentioned to my various line managers, which is you must always feel that you're approachable, all right? And during this period of time where we are having so many different forms of stress, all right, trust your employees, empower them, measure them through their outputs and deliverables. At the same time, also, when they come to you with a concern, seek solutions, all right, together with them. One thing we also have to leverage on technology. So at Just Log In, we are using OneDrive. So there is all my team can collaborate on a single document. So using productivity tools like Monday board, chat board with everyone, you reduce the reliance on getting someone to report to you what's the progress. I click on it, I open it, I know what is happening. And all the more we have to leverage on these technologies to minimize the form of checking in, calling you, hey, what's the update, what's the status update? And when you start to do this form of calls, employees will feel sian, in a sense that, hey, why my boss keep calling me every hour, So leverage on technologies, make sure that there's up-to-date monitoring in terms of what are the project progress, and don't keep calling your employees.
All right, can we get the results for the poll, please? All right, so majority of people said good support. Not enough people, I think, said awesome support, and then some with no support at all. So I guess my next question would be, for those who are not receiving support from their team, how can they still improve engagement? And there's also another question on, can engagement come from people outside of HR?
Yeah, Chito.
Yeah, I think it definitely can, and in the long run it should. The big but here is it really depends on the individual and the company culture. So if your company has been operating very top down for a long time, and then suddenly you're expecting employees to take initiative, and especially to take initiative on fun activities that management might think you're just slacking off, then that's not going to happen. So I think it really depends on the organizational culture and the management view on how these activities are perceived. And sometimes, I guess from a leadership standpoint, when you see people stepping up and initiating such activities, finding ways to recognize that individual well. So, hey, that's a great Zoom party that you just organized, right? Or whatever it is. And to encourage that, and hopefully more people start taking up. But then as a leader, you also got to worry about, I don't want to encourage too much of it, right? Then everybody's eyes are just, okay, this boss is just entirely focused on fun activities. And then, but somehow when I turn in good work, he doesn't care, right? So then, I mean, as a leader, it's always tough. You have to balance your balance is all.
Yes. Yeah, I think that what Chidong mentioned in terms of this kind of fun activities, and also in terms of engagement, is not necessary to be on the desk of the HR, because as a company, I think in terms of we do have leaders, we do have our our individual divisions whereby we can actually be able to create this kind of engagement events together. And also on the side note, actually in terms of my division creative event, because you know my profile people are very young, so sometimes I will even pick someone to be the organizer, you know, to initiate this and what's your ideas, because this is whereby they can really relate to what works and what doesn't work in a way. So the empowerment of, you know, probably getting someone's you can be on the rotating kind of a manner, you know, to get someone to be the organizing and everything like that. Give them a specific timeline and also communication. It's not that, you know, you do this and then you forgo about what you are on your work. But I think this is something whereby clear communication needs to be given, and also in terms of instructions as well. Yeah, so that you can strike a balance.
Right.
Totally agree.
Now I want to dive into the work-life balance and mental health. So someone has asked specifically Chi-Tung, how best to encourage teams to maintain a healthy work-life balance when working from home? It is so easy to work all day.
Yes.
That's a really good point. And in fact, longer working hours is one of the biggest sources of stress in the study that, when we looked at our aggregate data from the People Continuity Package. One of the things that, it goes back to setting boundaries, right? I think every leader of every team needs to have this open discussion with their team on when their working hours are going to be, right? And I, to the extent that even at Engage Rocket, we published an internal document to say that these are the expected working hours and this is the responsiveness that's going to be expected during this time. But outside that time, we respect your time, right? So being very clear that if I send you a Slack message or an email at 9 p.m., I don't expect a response. So that needs to come from the leader. There needs to be certain understanding, right? That sometimes there are projects that are going to drag past office hours, and everybody's an adult, everybody's responsible. We need to trust that people are going to be responsive when they need to be as well. On the other hand, as an individual employee, when I've spoken to some of our clients and customers, one thing they tell me is that they just tell themselves they stop replying to emails after 7 p.m. And initially people take some time to get used to it, but after a while everybody just kind of coalesces around that norm, and they know, okay, Chi-Tung just not responsive after 7 p.m. I'll just make sure that I catch him before he goes off, right? And then as an employee to share this maybe openly if the culture is such that, hey, I bring my best self to work when I can preserve my mental health, and this is how I'm doing it, and let's find ways to work around it to make sure that I'm equally productive.
Yes. So adding on to that, I think in terms of mental health and the well-being, this is something whereby is to me it's also your responsibility as well. You know, that especially during this time whereby working from home, even if I take leave, I also work from home. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, but I think I'm one of the culprit. But at the same time, when actually currently right now, my HR is also driving us to clear leave because by the time if you go back to office, you have accumulated leave as well. So this is something I'm sharing with my people. During this time, please clear your leave, and I mean, if you still want to work, I think this is really up to you. But you can be selective. For example, if there's a call and then you're on leave, you say that I'm on leave, you know, that kind of thing. So it's also you need to be able to have that kind of responsibility as well. So for example, if I'm working from home, I will not take any calls. For me, working from home is to clear my emails or to attend some courses on my own during at home. Yeah. So this is something whereby I think this is your responsibility, and then you have to make it work yourself.
Yeah, I think as a HR, it's important for me to advocate, work-life balance. But how balanced can it be when your bed and your workplace is just 2 steps away, right? So I think there's something which I read online which I felt it makes sense, which is they say manage your energy, not your time, right? And productivity actually do decrease as time goes by. So as managers, right? I think as manager, one thing which I do is I do constant evaluation of my team. If I see that certain member is slightly stretched, I'll go to them and say, hey, share with me what's your priorities for the next 3 days. And then I realized that, hey, because in a work from home environment, right, every email comes in becomes a priority. Every instruction which comes from me is a priority, but sometimes it's not, right? And maybe I'm at fault for it also. At times I'm not making it clear enough. So employees also have to be aware that there must be this open communication with your bosses to say that, can I re-evaluate the task at hand because I'm getting stretched? Can I re-evaluate some of the priorities? This is a priority for you. Can we push this back? Can we push this back? Can we focus on this? All right. And then on the HR aspect, right? Being at Just Log In, I'm using, of course, Just Log In HRMS. I do have daily reports where I can see the attendance for all my global workforce. And that's where I also ask my HR team to do check-ins. At times where we see a staff cock out at a later time, just be aware of it. If it goes on persistently for a 2-3 days period, check in with the staff, check what's happening. Are you stressed? Are you putting this additional hours? Are you rushing for a high priority project? And based on their feedback, right, we try to do a feedback loop to the line managers and say, hey, do you notice that this stuff of yours is clocking until 9-10 p.m. every day? All right, then the line managers will say, oh shit, I'm not aware. Then they try to have a conversation and they realign everything again. So some employees feel a bit pressured. They don't want to show that they're incompetent to their line managers where they want to delay certain deadlines. But I think especially now in this type of environment, there has to be that level of trust. Right, and HR sometimes we can come in to promote that form, provide a platform for everyone to just have a discussion and say that let's manage our time better. Let's manage our time better.
For some of those employees, you realize that they may not be as engaged, maybe more stressed. How do you keep employees motivated, and how do you address the stress?
All right, so in terms of addressing a stress level, I think end of the day, we also have to identify what's the source of that stress level. There's this thing called sanity call, which Chito has mentioned. And for me, I'm engaged in at least around 3 to 4 sanity calls a week, all right, with various employees, where sometimes it doesn't come from the work itself. Sometimes it comes from the mother-in-law, the spouse, the children, right? Father-in-law maybe sometimes, all right? And I think end of the day, they know this is their problem they need to sort out. But when they pour their concerns out to someone, be it their line managers or their HR, they feel relief after the call and they say, hey, thanks for that call. I feel better now. This should keep me going for another 1-2 weeks. Let's hope COVID dies off soon, right? Because many a times employees treat their office as a sanctuary away from work. Away from home, where the home affairs doesn't affect them. All right, and now being in their home environment together with work, they find it hard to strike a balance on an hour-to-hour basis. Feeding my kid during lunch, rushing a project, being out there for them, listening to them, makes, I think, as what Chito has mentioned, an engaged workforce is more productive. And you need to have these form of measures where there are people whom you can reach out to, be it your HR line managers, and we have to be always there for them.
I think that's a great point, Jeremy. I think being able to isolate, first of all, answer the question, is there stress and how much stress is there in the workforce? I think that's an important thing to isolate. Second thing to isolate is then what is causing this stress, right? And you're absolutely right. Most of the time it's not the work. Right? Most of the time it's not the work. It's all kinds of, so one thing that we've discovered doing pulse surveys for companies, and actually part of these people continue to package, the top 3 drivers of stress have nothing to do with work. Number 1 is the health and economic impact that COVID has on the country. And people are stressed about that, right? There's the stress, Then the second thing that they are concerned about is, oh, kanchong that one of my family members will get COVID. So these are things that are stressful. And then the third one is the cost-cutting measures that people are concerned about. I mean, obviously, job security is an issue here. So I think for leaders to maintain that pulse of their organization, it's hard enough when we are in person, we are busy traveling last time. You know, I remember pre-COVID days, you can never get people in the office. Everyone's always in Jakarta, in Manila, wherever it is, always somewhere else. Then now everybody's forced together. We're all in Singapore, but the problem is nobody's seeing each other also. So sometimes it's difficult to be able to turn that gut feel into some solid data, and then if we are trying to convince leaders, hey, you need to take action, and this is what the action that you need to take. We need to bring some data to the table, right? As HR. So I think, I mean, we eat our own dog food also in Engage Rocket. We drink our own champagne, right? We do these surveys on a quarterly basis to ourselves, to figure out, hey, what are the big concerns that people have, and then try to address them as individually as we can.
Yep, I agree with Chitong. And I think as a HR, you know, when we are driving certain policies or certain communications, especially when it's COVID related, we have to be very open in the way we communicate. Example, what's the rationale? You know, what's the rationale for certain cost-cutting measures if the company wish to implement? At the same time, what is the financial viability of the company? You know, if you're in a position to assure the employees that they will be gainfully employed, at least for the rest of the year, give them that assurance, because it's so important. I mean, we've seen online, right, where people, where companies did retrenchment exercises or termination exercises through Zoom calls, you know? So everyone is also worried, you know, do I have a job tomorrow? And if you're able to give a form of assurance to them to say that, hey, company is financially viable, it's a difficult period for us, definitely, but moving forward, at least for the next few months, or at least for 2020, we are well covered. You know, I think that simple statement itself, all right, would make the staff feel that, hey, one less concern off their mind. The last thing which can impact anyone is that on the day-to-day, you're sitting at home and your inner devil starts to talk to you. You see retrenchment, everything going around, and you get affected. Will I be next? This assurance from the management and HR is very important.
Yeah, there's a question from the audience on, I mean, with everything going on with job security and uncertainty, how can you still engage with your employees?
I think in terms of, there's so many insecurity situation right now. I think the more you have to be with your employees, the more you have to be transparent with them. I think in terms of assurance and everything like that, I think what Jeremy mentioned in terms of, you know, having a very open communication and assurance to our employees. Like I actually, before this circuit breaker, we did have a town hall whereby our management staff did come out to share some certain communication. I think at the same time, I think this is something I will also feedback to my HR, that probably we also need to be, it's not a one-time off kind of thing, because every minute there are changes in a way. So probably, you know, this kind of assurance, probably we need to have it, probably not say every week, but probably it's just a one-time thing, you know, because circuit breaker also extended, you know, for another 1 month or anything like that. So I think that is something whereby I will feedback to my HR in a way. But I think at the same time, in terms of engagement with your people during this uncertainty time, I think the more for us leaders, I think, of course, we do have emotions as well. We do need to stay positive. I think the law of attraction is very important. You cannot always, you know, like telling your members, it's like, yeah, you know, it's horrible, it's getting worse and everything like that. I think the language that you use, the motivation, you know, because now you don't see them face to face, but I think even when you talk to them over the phone, you're also to be able to convey the kind of feeling, the kind of emotions to them. So I think that is also very important as well. Yeah.
Going back to the motivation, we have a question. How do you motivate employees with no cost? Because some of us are struggling with budget, and yeah, so what are some easy fixes for that?
I would
So
actually
many.
ask back that question, you know. How do you motivate people with cost, right? I mean, just because you throw money at somebody doesn't mean they're going to do what you tell them to do, right? So I do think that at the end of the day, as effective leaders and HR, the only true intrinsic motivation you can get is intrinsic, and all of that comes at no cost. So sorry, I cut you off, Yvonne, but just the basics of employee engagement comes really with that manager to staff interaction, right? Making sure that expectations are clearly set, making sure that the work environment is conducive to them, making sure that they have a voice, understanding their strengths, helping them to live those strengths at work, giving them a clear roadmap into their professional development, making sure that you understand their values, where they're coming from, aligning those values to the company. All of these things are very basic and they don't cost anything besides maybe a little bit of time, management time taken to speak to the individual. But the ROI on this is so high. I mean, it's proven over and over again that, I mean, Andy Grove, when he wrote, so Andy Grove was the former CEO of Intel. He wrote this book called High Output Management. And his idea is that as a middle manager, your sole KPI is the productivity of your team. It's not you as an individual contributor anymore. Once you're managing people, you're managing a team, you should be judged on the productivity of your team. And how do you improve the productivity of the team? Is not by doing more yourself. It's by motivating your people to do more, right? And that comes from employee engagement and paying attention to those little details.
I agree with Chee-Tung. Yeah, throwing money doesn't motivate people, you know. It may motivate them for a very quick period of time, but it's not sustainable because that becomes the new constant and you need to pump in more and more, right? So motivation comes from within, and we all know how important is it as line managers to sometimes give a pat on the back to a staff, is, hey, job well done, right? And same, when you give a simple thank you, you know, a simple recognition for a staff, they feel happy, they feel that, hey, my manager recognized my efforts, and they become more motivated. Motivation is a feeling, you know. It's not about how much money my bosses throw in my face, you know. Of course, money can help a little bit, but that feel, how does an employee perceive in terms of the effort and the support they're getting, that drives motivation.
All right, I think we're gonna do our last poll of the day and then jump into this question about what happens after COVID-19 with this remote working culture. So can we pull up that poll real quick? After COVID-19, how much do you want to continue working from home in the long run? And then while that's going up real quick, can we get maybe a few last words where you think the trend is going after COVID-19? Will you keep the remote working culture an option, or will you ask your staff to come back into the office?
Maybe I'll just start off.
I think you're on mute as well still. Sorry.
All right, so from a HR viewpoint, right? The reason why we are on work from home is because of compliance. It's something which is announced by the government. It's something which we are required to do. So we comply with it, right? But post-COVID, when work from home is no longer something which is required for us to do so, we have to look into the purpose of work from home. Right. As for me as a HR, the purpose of work from home has ceased because for post-COVID, the COVID situation, if it dies down, it's safe for everyone to go back to the office. Then we should revert back to the norm, which is returning to the office. However, based on the past few months, the lessons that we have learned on working from home, what are the benefits then? You know, for me, I feel that some of my staff, they say working from home makes them more productive. All right, we can go into, that's why we have that 1 day per month work from home leave for our staff to attend to some of their personal things whilst at home. All right, will it increase? It could, depending on the staff suggestions. So one thing about Just Not In, there's a lot of bottom-up initiatives where all staff are actually encouraged to give a suggestion per month, and depending on the form of suggestion, various managers will review. All right, we will definitely look into the feedback, and then we see what is the trend moving forward. You know, and So let's not forget that the rationale of us, or all of us on work from home now is because of COVID-19. And when COVID-19 ceased, bosses are still paying for rental or leases for the home office. And we also went through this 1 hour course stating about the disadvantages and challenges of working from home. So we have to strike a balance. All right, there may be companies who are giving things like maybe adopting just not in best practice in terms of giving a day or two of work from home leave per month. Ours is per month, right? Which is 12 days per year, you know, and it could be a possibility.
Thanks, Jeremy. Before Yvonne Chiting jump in, can we show the results real quick? And then this will be the last question, really. So it seems 50% of people, 75% of people say that
they want to work from home.
yeah, very
continue
few
to work
say.
from home.
So Yvonne Chitang, any last remarks on this?
Yeah, I think as what Jeremy said, we are working from home because of the situation and also in terms of compliance. I think currently right now, HR should be very busy right now because I think there's more measurements that you need to comply and to follow for going back to work. So I think in terms of Adecco, for what we did was actually, we also have implemented whereby 1 month you can actually be able to work from home twice, you know. So I would say that it's to strike a balance because no matter what, you know, we have offices and then we have also built, we pay the monthly rental in a way. So I think there's some cost perspective, but also in terms of current right now, I think working from home, I do not know whether it will be a new norm going forward, but I think this is something whereby as leaders, as also as HR, we have to be very open to it because somehow or rather, probably because of this working from home, it drives even productivity up because they save traveling time, you know, to and fro. With these hours, they can do more or something like that. So this is something whereby we need to see how is the organization able to approach this on a very positive and also in terms of a productive manner and also to strike a balance.
Yep. Just to share quick statistics, 15% of Just Not In workforce pre-COVID are on permanent work from home. All right, so they're remote staff, they're working from, there's no office, some of them decline. So we really have to look into the business nature, whether does it support the work from home initiative and how do we measure then their performance and productivity?
That's absolutely true because half our engineering team are remote anyway. So we had even pre-COVID, we had a 1 day a week work wherever Wednesday, right? So you just work wherever you want every Wednesday. And we found that actually COVID has opened our eyes a little bit that actually productivity doesn't fall and in fact might actually increase for a business like ours. So now we're thinking forward like, okay, what is it that we actually need our office space for? Is it fixed desks, like everybody come in and sit down, or should we turn it more into a collaboration space? And then you come in when you need to have face-to-face interactions and there are town halls and stuff like that. But other than that, why do you need to work in the office, right? I mean, we haven't landed on an answer to this yet, but all options are on the table. In terms of productivity, it's there's a potential upside. Definitely in terms of cost saving, there's a potential upside. We can turn that cost from renting the square feet, and turn it into a really amazing collaboration space, right? People can come in and enjoy coming to the office. So yeah, I think that's how we're thinking about it as of right now.
Perfect. Just a reminder to everybody, there is a feedback form and we do have a webinar next week, episode 9 in the series, featuring HR Tech founder CEO Sriram Iyer and then Just Login CEO Chan Chu Hao. So tune in and take a look at our feedback, give us some input so we can improve. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our lovely speakers, Chi-Tung, Yvonne, and Jeremy for sharing those great insights. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe and keep engaging your employees.